We'll start with the breaking curses. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ of Nazareth, by the power of his cross, his blood, and his resurrection, I take authority over all curses, hexes, spells, voodoo practices, witchcraft assignments, satanic rituals, incantations, and evil witches that have been sent my way or have passed down through the generational bloodline. I break their influence over my life by the power of the risen Lord Jesus Christ. And I command these curses to go back to where they came from and be replaced with a blessing. I ask forgiveness for and renounce all negative inner vows and agreements that I have made with the enemy. And I ask you, Lord Jesus, to release me from my bondage that may have held in me. I claim your shed blood over all aspects of my life, relationships, ministry, endeavors, and finances. I thank you for your enduring love, your angelic protection, and for the fullness of your abundant blessings. And then we'll finish up with the prayer to Saint Michael. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of souls. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Cool. Thanks for leading us through that. So, we're the Not Zero podcast. We're here today with our 4th episode and our very first guest. We're going to kind of just let him run with it, but he has studied cryptozoology, or I guess maybe he started studying under a demonologist and then moved into cryptozoology. But PH, I'm going to kind of just why don't you just go ahead and tell us how you got into this, how you started, a little bit about yourself.
So, I guess that goes back, way back. Holy crap. But like I've told you guys, how Norse paganism, even in the old Norse mythology and stuff, witches and warlocks were viewed as evil. And they were outcasts of society because they had to do shit to get what they had. The people that are viewed as people that are viewed as soothsayers, seers, prophets and stuff like that, came from a bloodline from the four who came to Scandinavia and taught the Nordic and Germanic people about the runes, about Seder, to reach the gods. And through that, they were able to call upon the gods to liberate themselves from the ice giants. And, but yeah, so you have those that are born through the bloodline, and those who do something like, stealing your baby brother and sacrificing him on an altar to Nidhogg to get power type evil. Those would be the witches and stuff. My family comes from a line where even at one point, the Catholic Church has always outsourced exorcisms and stuff also. They haven't always done it just themselves. And I've had my great-grandfather and my great-grandfather has been involved with some of that stuff in the past. And my great-great-grandfather, no, it's my great-grandfather, my bad. In his journal, he talked about helping with the exorcism in Europe. And on the way back on the train, a portal opened up with devils and demons. And on the train attacking him. And they cast him back out. And one of them turned around and apologized to him. And the other one turned around and cursed my family. Then, long story short, all the males in my family whenever we've all turned 16 on our 16th birthday, we've all had our own experience that was holy shit. That's why I say to some people, there's people who have faith in God, and the people who are allowed to have faith is a luxury. because I know there is a God, and it's not because like an angel came down and spoke to me. It's because of the shit I battled, and so I never had a point in my life where I could be atheist. Really, well, I did until I was 16. And I lost a friend that day because he spent the night when that shit happened, and I won't get into that, but that was like, holy fuck. Then my dad had to come in. He blessed my room and shit. Then I joined the Army after 9/11. Then a lot of the shit I witnessed throughout that time, even in some of the old Army bases, like there's this one section in Fort Sill that was shut down after World War II, and we went in to reopen it. And me and this one guy were doing guard duty one night, and we watched we both saw a guy in an old uniform like walk down this hallway, and I went to go confront the guy, and the guy was gone, and at the end, and all the doors were locked, and they were just went to rooms with no windows on both sides, and at the very end was a door that we put a wooden bar across to barricade the door so no one could come in or out, and that wooden bar was still across the door. There was nobody there. And then even if you talk about some of the salute howitzers we used, they're all named after Medal of Honor winners, and we all said it was just known that if you stepped over the trails or disrespected one of those howitzers, something bad's going to happen to you. And I seen like 2 guys do it, and both of them lost a finger through that howitzer in an accident shortly after.
Oh, wow.
So, and then growing up in the woods, and then plus, I was taught all about the lore and everything of Norse mythology growing up, because my family kept passing it down, and my family was fortunate enough that at one point we were nobles, so we have old diaries and stuff that go back to like the 7th century, or copies of it. One of my great aunts had a bunch of them translated in English and handed out to the family, and it never went to the public, which I think it should have, because there's stories of coming across trolls like Bigfoot, a lot of stuff, and I remember reading those growing up, and so yeah, I guess it was as much as something got in. I was born into it, I guess.
And then when did it become kind of more of how did you start working for the first person? You said, did you start with a demonologist? Is that what you said?
Yes.
How did that?
I got out of the Army. I was medevac from Iraq, medically retired, and I ended up in the Chicagoland area because I was trying to live close to my daughter, and ended up just finding that job for extra money, and I knew somebody who knew somebody, and that person was looking for somebody to do something, and before he gave me the job, he actually did a thing with a pendant with a crystal on it, and he's like, holy crap, you got a lot of energy about you. And I said, I know, it sucks.
I know what you mean. Actually, like having that excess energy around, it kind of draws experiences in, right? Like it almost seems to attract them in a way.
Yeah, it's a beacon. I mean, like one of the number one rules when you're doing investigations and stuff is to not show fear, because the fear will actually amplify it, because they feed off of that stuff. And not only that, if you actually see it and you fear it, and it knows that you can see it, it gets even worse. Like there's a lot of there's no like clear cut black and white how things work, but the stuff does work, and And then other things, you get its attention. That's never a good thing. That's why Ouija boards and stuff are so dangerous, because if the wrong thing answers and it spells out its name and you speak its name, then you're acknowledging its existence. And now it knows your name. And that can get really messy. I remember investigation I did. It was for an upstairs apartment of an old house in Wisconsin. And I was up there, and I was in the upstairs apartment, and I actually brought out the pendant with the crystal on it. And in this empty room, it went like really crazy. But I myself couldn't really. I'm like, but it's not here. Like, it's coming up here, but it's not from here. And I asked the people below me, well, that were in the apartment below, I said, what room's below this room up here? And the lady said, oh, that's my 13-year-old daughter's room. And I said, is she practicing witchcraft? Is she using Ouija boards? She goes, yeah, how do you know? And I said, because I just found the problem. Like, what was the root cause of a lot of the stuff going on? And then it even turns out that she was aware of it and talked to her friend that was into the New Age stuff. And she's like, oh, I can cleanse it and get rid of it. But what she did was, because if you're doing that in a building, you have to do the whole building, starting from the top, working your way down to the basement. You can't just do it in one spot and be like, oh, that's good. And so she didn't really know what she's doing, and she actually made the situation worse, because she started something she didn't finish. And now this thing was trapped in this attic, this upstairs apartment, or down in the basement. And the attic and the basement, for whatever reason, are their favorite places. And on top of that, and so that happened. Now this thing's pissed off. And then on top of that, there's these little kids that it was messing with, striking fear in the kids and getting stronger off of that. And it became a huge mess. And that one actually ended with 2 exorcisms happening. One on the 13-year-old girl who used the Ouija board, and on the house itself. That was a pretty crazy one.
So why don't we take a few steps back and then have you maybe explain kind of what is a demonologist, like what kind of your role in this kind of thing was, and then maybe if you ever have sat in on an exorcism or been maybe a part of that.
So a demonologist is basically like a cryptologist or even a zoologist or whatever, but their focus is on the spirit realm, mainly, like demons, malevolent entities, stuff like that. But what I'd say would be places like that would originate from places like Corpse Shore or whatever, because these places are void of their realm exists void of light where they're from, if that makes sense. Like, because even in darkness there's light, but these things are from a place where there is no light, because if there is any light, that means there's God. So they're from a place where there is no God. And you guys call that ruler Lucifer or Satan. I call it Nidhogg, the giant dragon that rules over that realm. And that place, but the difference between what I would call hell and what you guys would call hell is, it's not a place of fire and brimstone, because even with fire and brimstone there is light. This place is completely void of light. There is no light. It's absolute darkness and cold. And things of your horrors exist there. And so that actually, like, the type of people would go there would be like oath breakers, rapists, murderers, like people where no God would claim. And that place frightened me more than the story of the Christian hell, because this place, absolute darkness, no light, absolutely freezing. Things of your horrors will hunt you down through like these woods in these frozen lakes. And if you get killed by them, you're born again the next day, just to be hunted all over again. So while you're running from these, you're trying to avoid Nidhogg, which is this giant dragon that feasts upon the corpses. And you get devoured by him, you become part of him, and your soul ceases to exist. Like type shit. I'm like,
that sounds terrifying, honestly. Like,
yeah.
yeah. Jacqueline or Garrett, you guys got questions at this point in time, maybe, or any
yeah.
idea?
I was wondering if you could explain maybe about like the hierarchy of demons. Do you know about that, or is that thing you're familiar with?
Yeah, so you have a hierarchy of demons. Like the top one would be what is referred to as Legion. That's the one that rules over many different demons. And then it goes down. Like then you have the generals and stuff or whatever. That they still have more than one demon that's under them, and the very lowest demon is by itself on that pyramid, if you would, of stuff. And like they all have their names. But that's where the double-edged sword is knowing their name, knowing who they are, because you have to know that to fully cast them out, to cast them back where they came from. But then at the same time, if you know their name and you speak of their name without the right protections and stuff, you're opening yourself up too. That's why I have a few tattoos on my body that are to protect me at all times, on top of the Thor's hammer I have around me and a couple runes and stuff, because it's like even one of my tattoos is the cross. So, I mean, and then there's a couple exorcisms that I've been in where just the crucifix itself wasn't enough, where they actually had to use stuff like the Seal of Solomon and other things. That's when like high ceremonial magic comes into play. Then you have to be careful with that, because there's the good version and there's the bad version. There's the stuff that's used for casting out demons, like King Solomon did for the jinn. That's where the Star of David actually comes from. A lot of people don't know about. That was on David's shield. David's shield wasn't just a 6-point star. It was actually the Seal of Solomon on his shield, the entire seal. But yeah, sorry but then there's those that use it for like necromancy and stuff like that, which is like really, really bad. Yeah, I don't mess with that. I mean, I hate that stuff so bad. Like, one of my favorite things to do, even when I play Skyrim, is to hunt down necromancers and kill them. Because I'm like, yeah, fuck these guys. Yeah, like it's just. Sorry, I'm just thinking that there's just so much stuff that's going through my head right now, trying to.
That's cool. Jacqueline, did you have something maybe to ask or say at all, perhaps, potentially?
No, not right at the moment. Just kind of listening and learning.
Cool. Did you? So you predominantly started to learn through the Norse view of things, right? But there's many different paradigms out there to view demonology. Have you researched more of those? And also, have you noticed a lot of correlations between maybe these different cultures or paradigms of demonology?
There's tons of it. Like even the story of Ragnarok, when the world was first flooded. Talks about how evil the world became, how it was flooded, and then it was rose from the sea again. That they even talk about how there was a ship of refugees that used white ravens instead of like a Noah's Ark about the white doves. And then I even learned through this demonologist, the Bible originally said that Noah used ravens and not doves, white ravens, at the ark. And a lot of that was changed up I would think he thought, and many others thought too, is because there was such a close correlation and parallel between Norse paganism and Christianity that they were having a really hard time converting the numbers that they wanted to, because they're like, it was hard for them. Like Norse paganism sort of ends with the Old Testament. So, because so it ends with the Old Testament, and they're having a hard time bringing people into the New Testament, if you would. There's a lot that did accept Christ and brought Christ in it before the Roman Catholics. There's a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of different Christian sects before the rise of the Roman Catholics and Constantine. And there's like theories too that Constantine chose the Roman Catholics because they're the most militant out of the different Christian groups or sects at the time. And his goal was he was trying to save his empire and unite everybody under one God. And he knew the one God to unite everybody would be Christ. And the group that would help him do that the best was the Roman Catholics. So when the Roman Catholics came through, there was a lot of fighting with Christians and stuff. That's just a whole like documentary in itself right there. But what's hard to really bring a lot of this out is that there's a lot of historians who will talk about it. There's a lot of archaeological finds that back this stuff up. But if you look at the people who roll over information and everything, they work really hard to keep a lot of things quiet. I think that's the biggest problem we have with the gatekeeping of knowledge. Is I don't think God ever wanted the knowledge to be gatekept. The only thing that would ever want knowledge to be gatekept is
something trying to hold power over you.
Yeah, the evil. And my experience, anyone who gatekeeps knowledge, you should never trust those guys, because like the gods or God, the whole thing, like even with Norse paganism, once the gods gave the knowledge to the Nordic Germanic people, the first thing the gods commanded them to do was to spread throughout the world and share the knowledge. Christ, what he said was, go forth and spread the knowledge. Like everything that is of actual God, the Creator, or I call God the All-Father, the number one commandment is to spread the knowledge and bring light to the truth. So
I think it is kind of really important, because I think that in our journey here, I don't want to speak for these two, but I think that the more we've kind of interacted over the last 6 or 8 months, really just kind of looking at the world, I've noticed this also through my own experiences, but a lot of people don't really understand what a demon is and how they actually affect you. And so maybe if you want to kind of go into a little bit of that realm of things, because, Hollywood has changed what, people, their perception is. And maybe if you want to spend a little bit of time talking about the characteristics of a demon, and maybe a little bit about the characteristics of their influence, like ladder, so to speak.
So a demon is an entity that never had a physical body. They never will have a physical body. So, a lot of them, their motivation and possession and everything, and their hatred towards humans is because we do have a physical body and we can return to the light. They were cast out from the light long ago. I think that right there is true damnation. And like excuse me, and so they look at corrupting, manipulating. They want to silence and destroy everything that is good. Like in Norse paganism, paganism, a lot of the demonic and bad influences, they talk about it as how the tree of life expands from heaven down to hell, or in Norse paganism from Asgard down past Helheim into where Corpse Shore is. Like, Corpse Shore does not exist within the realms, but it's there on the outskirts of them. But the roots go down into there, and Nidhogg chews on the roots to spit his poison to infect all the realms and everything with lies, deception, and evil. But through that same passage would also come the demons, the bad entities, or like what I said earlier would be the horrors that exist down in those areas, or what you guys would say from hell. That is their whole purpose. So a lot of what happens is the first thing in a lot of cases the demon will do is try to convince you it's there for you, it's your friend, or some of the really bad ones that are higher up in the food chain, if you will actually present themselves as a spirit or a ghost of a child, or something really innocent and pure to gain your trust. That's one way it starts. There's other ways it can happen, but there always comes a point where it's called the oppression age, where it oppresses you. It haunts your dreams. It keeps you up at night. It does all this stuff to feed into your fear, your self-doubt, and all of that is to weaken your mind, because to weaken your mind is also to weaken your spirit and your soul, to get all the defenses down. I honestly think that's why you have like such what they call as mental illness amongst alcoholics and heavy drug users, because when you're using stuff like meth, cocaine, or heavy alcohol, like, you are opening yourself up to a lot of influence, a lot of you come across the demon, they're going to latch on to you. They will ride you like a horse, manipulating, whispering in your ears. A lot of the things that we say, it's all drug-induced delusions and stuff. I don't think it's that most of the time. We've all seen pictures of meth heads and crackheads out on the street, and it's like, no, that fucker's possessed. I don't care how much drugs that's on. That is not the drugs doing it. That is, they have a hitchhiker that is heavily influencing it. So the demonologist I worked for, one of his jobs was at one point, before, a lot of people don't realize that Obama shut down this program. Every state had a federal like outpost, if you will, where they'd have demonologists and stuff on standby that investigate heinous crimes and murders. And their job was to investigate this to see if this was a person just being a fucked up piece of shit, evil son of a bitch, or if this had a demonic possession involvement with it. And when Obama shut down that program, I'm like, oh, that's not right. Hey, there's something bigger going on, because why all of a sudden would you shut this down? I even remember. Oh, sorry.
No, keep going, please.
But yeah, so you have the oppression stage, where it does that. They'll slowly start possessing you. Some of the signs of possession is lapse of memory, or you do remember doing something, but you don't know why you did it. It was like you're an autopilot and you watched yourself do the shit and you had no control over it. There's a lot of different implications of that. One thing that is a sign of it too is pupil dilation. A lot of people don't realize that's why a lot of things that happen, they blame it on drugs and stuff because the pupils are heavily dilated. Well, no, that's also a sign of possession. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go in it. I mean, it was so that was my job as an investigator, because you get a lot of people who call like they're priests, or they'll actually call demonologists directly and stuff, saying that there's a demonic presence or something going on with their house. And they don't have time to answer all those calls and to visit themselves. So they'd hire people like me, where my job was to go investigate it, doing the theme like ghost hunters, turn off all the power, spend the whole night by myself in this building or whatever it is, from sunset to sunrise, taking EMFs, all that stuff. I had this digital recorder I liked. I had 2 microphones on it, so it would record in audio. Some of the stuff I picked up on that. Like the worst house investigation I was in was in this house in Marseille, Illinois, and it was one of the oldest buildings in that town. And and it turns out that that building was originally the first courthouse. And they used to hang people inside the courthouse in the winter. And down in the basement, when I was down in the basement where the laundry room was, there was this like bricked off wall, but you could tell there was something behind it. That used to be the jail cells. And they ended up walling it off. But so after it was the courthouse, it became a schoolhouse, and it caught fire twice within like, I can't remember the time period. It was long ago since I was there. And then so it shut down, went vacant, and then it became the morgue for a while.
Jeez.
And then after the morgue and that shut down, somebody renovated it and turned it into a house. And so the open area where it used to be the jail cells, and then at one point where the mortician would do the embalming and stuff, they just walled that off and pretended it never existed. So I was doing the investigation, and one of the claims that they told us, they'd see this little girl, like 8 to 10 years old, in a white nightgown running across the yard at night, even in the snow. No footprints or anything. There's times I'd see her and she'd look perfectly normal. Other times it looked like she had a burnt face, like half of her face was burnt up. So one of the first things I did, I got there before it got dark, and I went up into the attic, and you could see old fire damage on the roof still. And I asked the landlord, the guy who actually owned the building, about it. He goes, "We've replaced it twice. We don't know why, but every time we fix this, we get these burnt marks all up in the same spots on the wood, but the wood's good, it just looks burnt." And I went up and scratched it, and it was true. For whatever reason, it would look like it was burnt. And then I went through the attic, and there was stuff that people have left there over the decades. Like, people would just move out of that house and leave what's ever up in the attic. I even found an old scroll for one of those cell-playing pianos from the mid-1800s up there. Huh. So, and when I was investigating on behalf of the landlord, because he couldn't keep tenants, they would just move. They would one night just pack up and leave all their stuff there. Or they would just take whatever they could fit, like real quick, and move. And so I'm investigating it, and I flip the nighttime comes. I flip the breaker to shut off all the power to the house, so there's nothing to interfere with any of the equipment or anything. And I'm going through this empty 3-story building, and it's really creepy. It's quiet, and I'm just like hearing this stuff, and you have to go into it believing it's not haunted, because you don't want anything to interfere with your judgment of what you're experiencing. So I'm like, okay, that could be that, it's a really old house. It's over 100 years old, and trying to figure stuff out. And then all of a sudden, lights just flipped on upstairs on the top floor. And I go up there and the lights go off. So then I go back down in the basement to check the breaker, and the main breaker's still off. Like, that wasn't flipped at all. And then I heard like a growl, and I felt hot breath on the back of my neck. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then all of a sudden the lights went off on the 3rd floor. They went on again, turned off, went on in the basement, turned off, and on the 2nd floor and turned off. And I'm like, all right, this is sort of like, even right now, all my hairs are standing on my neck because I'm just remembering this day. So then I go back up, I search the whole house, make sure no one's in there. No one's in there, all the doors are locked, like I had locked. I'm walking down from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor, and something pushed me down the stairs. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm like, all right. So then I went and I was checking my recorder, and then I heard this voice just silently say, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, done. And that was the exact floor as the lights were turning off and on. That's how it was going on. And it was around the same time frame when I was looking at my recorder, because I had a digital one. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And so then I'm going, lights flipped on in this bathroom and then turned off. And so I'm walking to this bathroom, and I felt something tug at my knee, like on my pant leg, on my knee. And then I turned, and I saw this little girl, like that was described, running through the kitchen and was gone. And so weird, like stuff like this, it got really bad throughout the night. And mornings went, and I went listening through my tape recorder again. And the last one was hit on it. You could hear this rubbing, like something is rubbing the 2 microphones on my digital recorder. And it started out so like, foof, foof, then got faster, foof, 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 like that. And then you heard a voice, I can do magic, I can do magic. And then, I can do magic. And I'm like, yeah, this is demonic. This is not malevolent, this is demonic. So I called up the demonologist. I'm like, hey bro, his name was John. And I'm like, John, you gotta get your ass down here. We have a demon. So he drives down from Chicago. He gets there, the landlord's visiting there. John walks up the steps. He goes to walk onto the porch, and he stops. And he looks at the landlord, and he said, there's nothing I can do for you. He's like, burn this place to the ground, sell it, I don't care, there's nothing I can do. And he walked away. And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? I just spent all night in here by myself, and you won't even walk through. And he's like, I already know. I just already know. And he left. So I was a bit angry with him on that. And then other fun stuff I got to do was so at that point I told him, I'm like, dude, I know we've been through a lot together. I've helped you out with a lot of stuff. And I said, but this is the first time you walked into a place, refused to go in, and just walked out. And I said, maybe it's the time I spent in the military or whatever, but I cannot work for somebody that's going to send me out to the front lines over and over and over, and you will refuse to go to places you're going to send me. And so he goes, hey, before you do that, then can you let's find you a replacement. He goes, you're one of the best guys I have. And I said, okay, so how do you want me to do it? And he's like, well, what do you think would be the best thing to do? And I said, you find applicants in the interview, I will take them to Bachelor's Grove at night and see how well they do. Because like I went and did a Bachelor's Grove investigation on myself. I don't know if you guys have heard of that in Illinois. One of the most haunted places in the country. And it's illegal to go there. And it's illegal to go in at night. Yes, especially at night. Because, so Bachelor's Grove, it's in the Illinois Triangle, which is like one of the most active places in the country. It's where like the Illinois River, Fox River, and I can't remember whatever river pass through. So it creates like a triangle island in Illinois, and spirits cannot cross water. and they can't cross over bridges. So that's all pent up there. And at one point when they're building this bridge, a lot of bridge workers mysteriously died. And so there's a cemetery that they're burying them all at. And it ended up getting its name back to its grove when a horse went crazy, drug its owner behind it into this big pond, like thing that's in there, and drowned both of them. And so, yeah, it's an old cemetery there, haunted as fuck. And then because of that, a lot of satanic cults and stuff will go there at night to do rituals. That's why they made it illegal to go there. So when you go there, you're taking a risk, not just because of demonic shit, but if you run into one of these groups of people,
oh, you're in trouble. Bad. Oh, yeah, you're in big trouble.
So when ghost hunters did that, did a show there, actually had state troopers go in and clear the area out for them before they went in.
Oh, wow. Wow. So taking someone there would be kind of like a test of their courage and ability.
A lot of stuff. Like, I've never been there without a lot of crazy shit happening. Like, not once. And I wish I still had it. The thing is about a lot of demonic shit. If, like, pictures, recordings, and stuff like that, it always finds a way to destroy it. So I even had a storage unit where I had a bunch of these pictures and evidence from my investigations. And a water main broke, and it flooded my unit, but no other unit, and it destroyed all my shit. So...
yeah, that's something else that I think that people don't really factor into it, is that these things are conscious, and they want to stay in the shadows, and they don't want to be revealed. You know, people are kind of like, oh, well, why has a demon never showed itself to me? It's like, well, because if it did, then you would definitely at least know, right? Mm-hmm. Like you would have to lie to yourself at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people experience the supernatural all the time, and they lie to themselves and write it off. Like, it's as simple as, like, if you ever took a bite of a cookie and you put it on the counter because you had to go to the bathroom, and then you came back to finish your cookie and it's gone, but there's no other thing that could have been in your house to eat that cookie, but it's gone. So you tell yourself, I must have ate it and forgot. Or you put your car keys somewhere. Like, you always put your car keys in the same spot, and then one day you go there and you find them in the most retarded place you can think of, and you're like, why did I put them there? It wasn't you. That's the thing. That there's so much out there. It's not as simple as just angels and demons. You have all this stuff in between, from, like, good entities, malevolent entities. Then you get into the cryptology. You do have things that come from, like, Niflheim, all these other places, like everything from water gnomes to, whatever. And you look throughout all of the cultures and everything throughout the world. They've all encountered the same things. They just call it something different. Like Europe, they call them water gnomes. The Native Americans call them water babies. Over here, they call it a rougarou, but over here they call it werewolf, or here they call it Sasquatch, here they call it the Bigfoot, over here they call it a Yeti. And then you can't even find one culture in the world that didn't talk about dragons, or giants, or the Great Flood, or any of these things. It's everywhere. And just 200 years ago, everybody knew this shit was real. Everybody did. Just 200 years ago. So as technology has progressed, so has the gatekeeping of knowledge, the misinformation, and the whole propaganda of, like, what they say, Satan will tell you one truth to get you to believe 1,000 lies. Well, it's all there. And that's, like, one thing I never told my kids. I never told my kids monsters aren't real. I never told my kids ghosts aren't real. And at one point, my wife had a bit of a problem with that, and I said, I'm not going to lie to them about it.
Yeah.
This shit is real. And just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it doesn't believe in you. And that's the biggest thing people have a problem with. And then,
I agree.
And what makes a lot of this hard is you have so many people that profit so much money off of bullshit regarding this stuff that there is so much bullshit mixed in with the truth. And people don't want to sit there and dig through mountains of bullshit to find the missing apple. I mean, they don't. But that's what you have to do nowadays. And I was fortunate because how I was raised, who raised me, my own personal experiences and the opportunities I had to expand on it. I think what got me started in investigating cryptoids and things of the spirit realm would be my dad. My dad would take me and would investigate crap when I was like 5 years old. I mean, so it was an easy step for me, like, oh, I can make extra money doing this. You know, this guy's willing to hire me to be an investigator for him. Awesome. And then the cryptology stuff that I've done afterwards was for my own personal satisfaction. Get a better understanding. Even my wife said one of the greatest strengths and the most annoying thing about me is I ask very detailed questions about almost everything. I don't take anything at this face value. My brain is like, I want details. Like, what you got? So, but then with knowledge also comes a lot of other things. And the more you know, the more they know you know.
Yeah.
And so like when my oldest son decided to get baptized, the first thing I told him, you're putting yourself on the radar. You need to be damn sure this is the path you want to take. And as I tell both of my sons, you need to forge your own path in life. You need to forge your path with God. I cannot do it for you. I can tell you my beliefs. I can tell you my experiences and why I am the way I am. But you need to find that yourself. I can't do it for you. And so he went and got baptized. And then he started struggling. I said, have you been praying? Have you been reading your scriptures? Have you been strengthening your relationship with God? And he's like, no. And I said, well, you need to. He was 10 years old when he got baptized. So I, sat with him and told him, you need to, this is something you're going to do. You've been sort of flying under the radar. As soon as you commit a path to God, no matter what that path is, you are no longer on the radar. And so as God will be calling you to strengthen your binds with them, there's going to be outside forces that are going to try to push you away. Best thing I explained to him about all of this is God is a lighthouse. In our existence, we're in a sea. It can be calm some days, other days it can be stormy. But God is fixed. The light never moves. The light guides us home. We're the ones who stray. Right? If at any time, no matter how dark it gets, if you stop and you pray and you look for that light, you can find your way back. God never goes anywhere. We're the ones who leave God. God never leaves us. And a lot of people forgot that.
I think that's a really beautiful analogy.
Oh, I have another question, actually.
Get it?
So, where do you think demonology fits within the context of, like, theology? Because I know it's, like, a similar field of study. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because you were just talking about it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. This is what I look at it. A lot of people think the spirit realm battles only exist in the spirit realm. It's not. It manifests in the physical realm all the time. Look at the abortion clinics. Look at all this stuff that pushes absolute debauchery and evil among the population. I mean, for someone to actually believe that, to truly be themselves, they have to mutilate their bodies and mutilate their genitalia. No. It's like there's some other forces behind it. And it doesn't just stand at stuff like that. It goes a lot deeper. I mean, you look at what Epstein was involved in. That's the spiritual fight fully manifested in the physical realm. Like I said, it gets no greater pleasure than destroying the innocent and the vulnerable and preying off of them. Because demons, it's like one thing my grandma taught me, and I learned it to be true. She told me to never fear a demon, for you will always be more powerful for it than it, because you have a body and it does not. It can only take power away from you and control you as if you allow it to happen. Now, I'm not saying everyone like purposely allows it to happen. They just don't know what they're up against. So that this whole concept, I think, of a lot of people saying they believe in a God, no matter what that God is, but they don't believe in demons or evil. That's just like a Satanist saying they believe in Satan, but not Jesus.
Yeah.
Both of those, you have to know your enemy. Now, what's dangerous, though, if you're going to go into that knowledge, the very first thing you need to know is how to protect yourself and to protect those around you. And then you have to learn what you need to do to learn. Right? It's not as simple as opening up a manual. You have to know what to call demons without using their name, because once you speak their name, you're inviting them to you. That's why a demonologist will only speak the demon's name, actual name, is during an exorcism, because they're taking power over the demon to do so. Just like the whole thing is, we don't know God's name. That's why we call him God the Creator or God the All-Father. That's why I argued Norse pagans who say Odin's the All-Father. I said, no, he's not. The All-Father created everything from Ymir to Odin to Thor to us. And if we have no name for God, we have names for those that speak on behalf of God, like Jesus Christ, Yahweh, stuff like that. If we were to actually know God's name and to speak it, we would ascend directly to heaven. God only reveals his true name to those who are chosen to know.
Right.
But that's why demons don't actually mind their names getting out. That's one thing they mind who gets it.
Yeah.
But they don't mind if all the other people get it, I should say.
Right. So if I may just kind of reinforce that point a little bit with I had experienced a demon once before this experience, but it wasn't as solidifying for me at that point in time. But this demon experience that I had was the experience that was oh, okay, the skies parted and I realized how infinitely small I was. And anyway, the reason why I said its name a few times is because its name is ridiculous. We all kind of assume those standard names that we hear often. I don't really like repeating even the ones that are commonly known. But so this one, actually, I looked it up later, on Google, because I just said its name a couple of times because it didn't sound real. It didn't sound like the other ones. It didn't sound Latin or anything like that. And come to find out, the name of this demon actually is the name of a board game that was made in Salem, Massachusetts. And basically on the cover of this board game is a seance. It is a common board game that is still played today. There are world championships of this board game played today where this name is being said by millions of people. And I had a very dramatic experience saying the name of this demon. It was very clear that it summoned, and then here we are. And I'm looking at this board game that very clearly has on the cover a seance and the name of this demon, and it's just being passed around. And I never really could get that out of. That was my first experience into the idea of oh, this is prolific, and there are also people in power who further these possessions, further these names being said. You know, do you have anything experiences in that realm too, or thoughts?
Oh yeah, well, that is a common thing that they do. Another thing to look out for, and it's easy to tell a lot of stuff, is the humiliation rituals that they do. Um, like a lot of people in my family got really pissed off at me when I said Biden. The only reason why he's in office for those 4 years was to humiliate the American people. It was a giant humiliation ritual to humiliate us. Now, a lot of people, when they think in this realm of stuff that the humiliation ritual is to humiliate that one individual, no, it's to humiliate all who are witnessing it. So they're like doing it right in your face, saying, "We have this power over you, and there's nothing you can do about it," and they're laughing at you, like they do with a lot of the Super Bowl halftime shows. A lot of the stuff that they put on TV, a lot of the things that happen, and a lot of aspects of our life around us, is to do nothing but to humiliate us and to mock us and to mock God. One thing I'm surprised didn't get the attention. Oh, I am surprised because the Republican Party is just the other side of the same coin of the Democrat Party. But the Republican Party really wanted, was what they really said they were about. One of the the DNC rally that they had before the election, they had mobile on-demand abortion vans.
Yeah, I saw that.
Booked out before the first day of the convention, and all these women showed up to sacrifice their babies, because that's what abortion is. It's child sacrifice, just called a different name. Even a lot of satanic churches brag about how they use abortions to legally do child sacrifice in their rituals. Like they do a whole ceremony during the abortion for that purpose. And that's what it was. That there was a mass celebration of child sacrifices right in front of everybody. And all these people celebrating it. And that's like what I always say, why I'm so against abortion is because a society that does not hold its most vulnerable and innocent sacred holds nothing sacred. And there is nothing more vulnerable and innocent than a baby in its mother's womb.
Yeah.
I'm old enough where it said, as safe as a baby in its mother's womb. The mother's womb is the ultimate temple and sanctuary on earth. That's why childbirth and everything should be so revered, because that is the closest thing to a God we can be on this earth. It's the creation of human life. And they mock it, they destroy it. You look at every civilization that became evil and wicked, child sacrifice was like right there with everything that they did. Like that's what happened with the Celts, with the Druidism. Once they started the child sacrifice and all that stuff, the Romans came in and pretty much wiped a lot of them out. When the Nordic people started doing that stuff, that's when the Roman Catholic Church came in and kicked their ass. And now, us as a quote-unquote Christian nation is doing that same thing. We are at the fall of our empire.
So, something kind of in that line of thought, actually, that Jacqueline and I have been noticing. So those two, Garrett and Jacqueline, are both Catholic. I'm working on becoming Catholic. But something that we noticed this week, especially Jacqueline, we've been talking about it. You know, the Pope is sick right now, and probably on his way out the door. And something that, you know, Jacqueline really kind of noticed. Her account is a little more involved in the Catholic side of things, but was people very much like kind of praying for like the Pope's suffering and praying for his death, even to like praying to God for the Pope to die, and like regardless of, you know, his decisions, that's still like a spiritual leader. Do you think that there is some sort of, like you were discussing the humiliation ritual there, do you think there is overlays? Obviously some people are just ignorant and have been misled and don't understand things and just are just kind of people. But do you think that there is a factor of that they would capitalize on a moment like that as well?
Oh, they would. They will never miss an opportunity, ever. Like they never will. And a lot of people follow it and go that way because going that path is so much easier than to have strong core principles and to stand against adversary. And that's why so I don't know how to phrase this the right way, but yeah, they will not miss any opportunity to humiliate, to celebrate. And it's like a lot of those people who are strong advocates of gun restrictions and outlawing firearms throughout the United States. My group, we call them coffin surfers because they're surfing and dancing on the bodies of dead children to disarm the people around them. And that's one thing God never wanted us to do. Like even Jesus, he said, well, Jesus and his apostles, they're skilled swordsmen. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, Peter cut the ear off of a Roman legionnaire. That's not somebody who didn't know what he was doing to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're skilled swordsmen. Jesus even flipped money tables and whipped people to get them out of temples, stuff like that. Even Odin said, never go a single step without a weapon by your side, for you never know when you're in need of a spear. And another thing Odin said, frequently gift your friends with weapons and clothing, for this generosity truly shows. Like, don't give them gifts of food, don't, like, weapons and clothing. And the importance of the clothing, too, said there's nothing worse than being a naked man, because then you are the most humiliated in the lowest time. And he even said he once gave clothes to a scarecrow, and the scarecrow then thought he was human, and type of a thing. And that's the thing that they really perverted about the Viking and Nordic culture. They think it was a bunch of orgies and drunkenness and stuff like that, but no, that was actually not encouraged at all. Like even Odin said, it is best to leave a feast early and go to sleep, for no one questions you, than it is to drink too much and wake as a drunken fool on the floor of the banquet hall. But it's like, drink in celebration, but no one to stop. Do not be the guest that goes to your friend's house and eats all the food and does not replace it. And then at the same time, do not be the host that invites someone in and does not offer them food and drink. Like, I still live by that. If somebody comes to my house, I will not invite them into my house unless I'm prepared to give them food and drink. If I don't like them enough to give them food and drink, I will not invite them into my house whatsoever. Because to me, that is the greatest insult you can do to someone, is invite them into your house and not offer them food and drink. It's like, even if I don't like you, I am not going to insult you that much unless I really don't like you. But
right, then I wouldn't even let you in.
Yeah. So I mean,
so what are some ways, if you don't mind, kind of switching? So what are some ways that people? Because I think that a big problem is that a lot of people don't realize how maybe afflicted they are. What are some things that people can do to be more aware of their present surroundings, and some things that maybe they can do in their routines to strengthen their spirit guard, so to speak?
One thing is, especially those who live in the city, take time every month to get the fuck out of the city and go into the woods, to go into nature. Because the cities are too crowded and so much chaos, you can't hear God. I mean, my wife, she grew up in Vegas, and then I met her I met my wife grew up in Vegas, and then when I met her, she was living in the Salt Lake Valley of Utah, but still has a really crowded place. So before we moved out in the woods where we live now, I was living in Taylorsville with her, and it was when my youngest was born. He was not even a year old, and I wanted my dad to give him a patriarchal blessing, because my dad is the patriarch of the family right now. And so we went out in the middle of nowhere. Like, the closest building was probably about 50 miles from us, and we're up actually on this mountaintop, blessing my son. And that was such a strong just bam that just radiated everywhere. And so that was done. My oldest kid is with his grandpa. He's going out collecting rocks and stuff. My mom was with our youngest. And my wife and I, we walked to this ridge where just as far as the eye could see, just wilderness. Like, no buildings, nothing, just wilderness. And you're sitting there, and then my wife's like I said, my wife's Christian. And she's like, I can feel and hear God out here. And I said, that's because it's quiet and still. You're not surrounded by the chaos. You're not surrounded by all this stuff. So that is one real important thing, is to stay healthy, both mentally and spiritually. You need to get out. You need to get out. You got to touch grass. Go out barefoot. Connect with the earth. Ground yourself to it. I believe even Jesus talked about how important that was. And I know in my religion it's very important. You need to go out there. You need to commune. That's why I say the woods are my temple. Another thing you have to look at too, if you're being inflicted or there's something of negative consequence, don't write everything off as something. Like, the signs will be right there, and you need to recognize them. If you're always saying this is a figment of my imagination, I didn't really see that shadow in the corner, I didn't really see this. You need to know, like, stop doing that, because you will feel there's something off. Will it be like severe depression? Will it be loss of appetite? Are you sick constantly? But there's all these things, because whatever affects the spirit or the soul will also manifest in you physically. On top of that, being at depression, over anxiety, a lot of those types of symptoms. That's why I think modern day psychology abandoned Jung and embraced Freud. Freud was a sexual deviant and a pedophile.
Yep.
Straight up. Freud is evil. Nothing was ever about the soul with Freud. But look at during the Weimar Republic in Germany. They really embraced Freud during that time. And pedophilia and a lot of stuff was running rampant. That's one thing they don't talk about in the history that paved the way for the rise of the Nazi Party, was because of the amount of child pornography, pedophilia, and a lot of the stuff that was running rampant in Germany after World War I. That was being pushed by the Marxist communists. But Jung said, to treat the mind, you also have to treat the soul. And
yeah,
that's one thing a lot of people forgot and failed to acknowledge nowadays.
I think that there is... Oh, keep going.
No, go for it.
I think that there is like a big problem, right? Because I started writing a book not too long ago, and because I'm a hacker. I look at things how they can break, and I'm just always analyzing. What would my enemy do? What would I do? And one of the things that I noticed about the exorcism ritual was the biggest flaw is through the psychiatrist at that's the weakest point, is that a psychiatrist can overrule an exorcism by just saying, oh, this is something in the DSM 35,000, like something that's like this big, and they've got a disorder for everything, and they can just write it off. And a church, the church will not go forward with an exorcism if a psychiatrist says, no, this is schizophrenia or DID, or whatever terminology you want to put in there. And I was talking to Jacqueline about it, and she's like, this needs to be a book, right? Like, what if the psychiatrist network got infiltrated? And I think about that kind of a lot, is like because we're always told, like, the question is always posited, is it mental illness or is it possession? And I think that it kind of frames it in this black and white manner, where I would assume that most people who have a mental illness might be more afflicted. And I think that we, like in society, that's something that we really need to calculate. Like, is it always possession? No, but having a fractured mind, like you said, it's maybe not necessarily quite a beacon. I don't know if that's quite the term that I want, like if I'm using the words correctly. But it does seem like a fractured mind would open up the door, because you're more likely to be in despair, not believe in yourself, doubt. And if
that's a thing too that a lot of people don't realize, is demonic forces don't always do full possessions. Like, they don't. They're like the monkey on your back whispering in your ear, guiding you and influencing you. So a lot of the times people are doing this stuff, and it is them doing it, but they're heavily influenced by an outside force that's right there that didn't fully possess them. And that's where a lot of this gets really tricky, is a lot of people think, oh, there's a demonic influence, it's automatically possession. No, it's not. I think a lot of people who suffer from schizophrenia, they're not fully possessed, but they are hearing those voices that are telling them to do these bad things. It's not the mental illness doing it. And then you look at how heavily medicated a lot of these psychiatrists do to people. Well, what are you doing? You're opening up the soul and the mind to be influenced from outside forces that you cannot see. I'm not saying every case is like that, but I think more often it is. I think some of these mental illnesses that we write off with these fractured minds, I think fewer of it is actually truly just nothing more than a mental illness. I
agree.
But I mean, because you look throughout history, I mean, the most narcissistic thing we do as mankind is we assume we're farther ahead than any other civilization has been before us. We assume all these things. We assume this, we assume that. But then at the same time, the people that we call the science and the trust of science, they are hiding and bearing all these finds. Up in before the rise of the Viking Age, there was actually 50 years up throughout northern Europe and the upper northern part of the hemisphere, where the sun was completely dimmed, where food was scarce to grow, everything was really harsh. And at that time, before that happened, there was a massive volcanic eruption that did it. They found proof of that in ice layers they found in Greenland and Iceland and stuff. But like Denmark and like Norway and stuff had cities that were millions of people big before this happened. And when this happened and the food and the livestock was dying off because things could not grow with how dimmed out the sun was, millions of people died off through starvation, and that led to a lot of the raiding and stuff like that. That led to the rise of the Viking Age. But they don't talk about any of that. They're just like, oh no, the population was never that big. They want to make people believe that. Like, they failed to talk about how at one point in the UK and the British Isles, they were growing oranges the climate was warm enough they could grow oranges and stuff up there. Then something happened that destroyed all of that. The Sierra Desert used to be a tropical rainforest. But then if you read the book of Enoch, and it talks about the different tribes and the wars, that explains why that became a vast desert land, because that land was cursed by God. If you really follow everything that's going on with the genealogy from the original tribes of Adam, and all of that, it's all there, but like I said to people many times before, a lot of these scientists, a lot of these people in NASA, a lot of people in the world governments, they know this stuff. Not necessarily the politicians, but the people who are running the stuff behind the scenes. They know this stuff, but they want to replace God. They want to become God because they follow the path of Nidhogg or Satan or Lucifer, whatever you want to call the evil entities, the demons. And they are willing to spend an eternity cut off from all light and in complete darkness just for the brief existence of power over their fellow man here on earth. And a lot of these people believe that their side in the end will win. Like I think I told you guys before, in Norse mythology, 9 is a really strong number. Like Odin hung himself in the tree of life for 9 days. Every 9 years, they sacrifice 9 of everything for the gods. I believe there is 9 Ragnaroks. And if you look at the Ice Ages, we've gone through 7 Ice Ages. So I believe that is 7 Ragnaroks. We're facing the 8th Ragnarok. The 9th Ragnarok is the final one. And then if read Revelations in the Christian Bible, it says there's going to be like an apocalypse, then 1,000 years of peace. And at the end of the peace, there will be one final battle, Satan's released one last time. I believe that is the 9th Ragnarok, because the 9th Ragnarok in some of the books and stuff I've read, it ends with that Nidhogg will be released. A great dragon that will fly from the mountains of the east, and its wings made of corpses, scorching the earth in its path. And so that's what I say. I see so many similarities to it, and that's why I embrace Christianity as strongly as I do, and I have so much respect for it. Because I can see how they intertwine and they mix perfectly. And that's why when I've gotten fights as Christians, I'm like, I believe our gods can be friends. Like, let's just be friends. We have the same core values. We have the same beliefs. We're both striving for the same thing. You guys are trying to return to the God, the Creator. I want to go to Valhalla so I can fight in Ragnarok as one of, I guess, the angels or something. I mean, we're all striving for the same thing. We have the same core values. We still have the same principles. I'm not a drunk. I don't do drugs. I don't worship the dark forces. I might run through the woods naked now and then just because, that's what I do. If you guys that follow my Twitter, today I posted one of my footprints in the snow, and I said, we got fresh snow today, and some retarded assholes running around without shoes.
It's probably a good place to wrap it up, actually, soon, because we're over an hour now. Hour 20, just about.
Yeah. Are there closing questions, thoughts, statements, ideas? Garrett? Jacqueline?
I just want to say I found it all very interesting. I mean, I like how you kind of drew all the connections to Christianity and North mythology. I don't know a lot about Norse stuff, but it's pretty interesting that it's kind of similar.
I have a lot more questions now. Maybe we can do a part 2 or something in a couple weeks.
I was thinking that too.
Me 3.
I could do that. And, Yeah, and I get it too, because Norse mythology and paganism has been perverted so badly over the past, like, who knows how long. And a lot of, because, like, not everyone who was a Viking was a good guy, you know, and just like in Christianity, we had the gods and we had the devils and the demons, and some followed the path that was bad. And what a lot of people don't realize is like the murderers and the rapists and stuff that a lot of people think all the Norse pagans were. We weren't, but the ones that were like that, if they were outed, they were either given a severe death penalty, where I won't get into that. It was really brutal. Or some of them, if there wasn't proof that they were this type of person, but there was enough proof that they should not be trusted, that they were an oath breaker, they were a liar, they were all these things, they would actually be branded on their face with a rune as an outlaw. And they were told to leave in the wilderness. And even if a slave or a thrall killed one of these people that they encountered, automatically got their freedom. Like, so these people were branded to be hunted by anyone or anything for the rest of their existence on this earth. Like, most Vikings were actually traders and explorers. They weren't going out and pillaging and plundering. Some of that would happen because what was the quickest way when you reached a new shore to build an outpost to protect your goods and your people?
Take over an existing one.
I mean, like, even the Crusaders did that. Everybody did that back then. But as we evolve as people and we draw closer to God, we're like, okay, that wasn't the greatest thing to do. Let's move past it. Let's keep going onto this path. That, you know, that's why we're here, though, right?
Yeah, I made a joke just a few days ago about, like, the world would be in trouble if the Vikings and the Christians teamed up and crusaded together. The heathens of the world would be in a lot of trouble.
A lot of people would. I mean, like, some good Christian buddies of mine, they even made memes with a Crusader and a Viking Berserker doing the brother thing, saying, "Let's do this." You know, like,
how scary would that be, dude?
I think that's the path we're headed. Like a quick recommendation. I don't know if you guys know who Clay Martin is. He's called Way of Theirs on Twitter. That's his at. He's wrote some really good books, actually, around these lines and everything. That's how I ended up finding him, was some of his tweets. I'm like, you know what? I know this is how I see this shit too. And I got into his books. He's a former special forces guy in the military. Great guy. He writes a book called Wrath of the Wendigo, The Barbarian Spirit. That's his newest one. I need to get that. Then he also wrote Prairie Fire, Concrete Jungle, stuff about, like, if societal collapse happens, the best ways to survive. And the biggest common ground him and I have is there's no such thing as a lone wolf. That is a myth that's been put apart of the people, because out in the wild, a wolf by itself never lasts that long. It needs its pack.
Yeah.
And if you had the two wolf packs, the Christians and the Norse pagans, bind together because we view the same things as evil as you guys, that would be a reckoning. I think that'd be a glorious day, I think.
Good. We may need it to happen. Anyone else with some final thoughts? And then if not, Jacqueline, do you want to close us out on the breaking curses prayer again? Well, you know, and then also, PH, thanks a lot for coming on here. Definitely just want to express gratitude for that.
I want to say thank you guys. Again, I know the religion of your people and the religion of my people, I've always seen eye to eye. we have a bit of a brutal history between us, but so I just say thank you, because I'm hated by New Age Norse pagans, and I'm hated by a lot of Christians. So whenever I can find people who can, put aside the stigmatas and the propaganda that's designed to keep us separated aside, to actually listen to each other and hear each other out, that is a huge win on
like you said, we believe in the same God, so the way I see it, we're all friends.
Yeah.
I believe God the Creator and God the All-Father is the same God.
Yeah.
And we're that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to do what was commanded of us and live our life to our fullest.
Stand against the dark.
Yep.
Cool. Well,
thank you,
Jacqueline, you want to go ahead and take us out unless there's anything else anyone wants to say?
I'm good.
I've got my spiritual warfare prayers. This one, I don't think we've done this one too often. The prayer against trafficking witches, kind of the short one. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, would you please send a special assignment of warring angels to remove all trafficking people from my life? Please have your warriors strip these witches of their psychic powers, demonic powers, and occult powers. Please strip them of magic charms, psychic vision, and powers of divination. Please have all their powers and devices destroyed and cast into the abyss. I ask you to bring these people before your throne and bless them with the revelation of who you are and your love and plans for salvation for them. Please show them how they are being deceived by Satan. I take authority over all astral assignments directed against me, and I ask you to establish an impenetrable shield of protection between me and all those who traffic on me. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I want to say that's really beautiful. There is a similar prayer to Freya that's just like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably all really similar. Like, you just change out which divinity you would prefer hear your prayer. But I mean, it's spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare goes across all different, cultures, religions, and whatnot.
It does. Well, that's the thing is like there's so much similarities, but it's the whole thing about the gatekeeping of knowledge. Like I said before, like you're always going to have those who do that because they seek to have power over you. Just like how for the longest time, priests and bishops in the Catholic Church, it doesn't mean it was the whole church, but there were a bunch of them that would only give their lectures in Latin to the people even though they didn't speak Latin. And it's like, how are you really teaching and spreading the word of God if you're speaking in a language no one else can understand but yourself? And
well, luckily we rectified that.
That's why I love what King Alfred did back in the day. Even though King Alfred and my ancestors hated each other because I'm a descendant from Bjorn Ironside. Like we had a blood feud. But King Alfred, one of the first things he did as a king was he ordered that all of the masses to be given in the language of the Saxons of that time, so that every man, woman, and child could actually hear and understand the word of God. And
cool.
That, he's like, hell yes.
Nice. Well, guys, I really appreciate you. PH, we're clearly going to have to do this again.
Yeah, we have to do a part 2 for sure.
Yeah, or more even, because we didn't even touch on cryptozoology. I think that we definitely should do this again, and totally appreciate you coming on for sure. So thanks a lot.
My DMs are always open to you guys, so just let me know stuff. April, mid-May until like mid-October is my busy season because I'm up at the family ranch a lot of those times.
Okay.
And there's no
Cool.
internet up there. Like I can, yeah, like that's
Okay.
where we're doing a lot of stuff, and I'm actually we're building a lot of stuff the old way, harvesting our own lumber, hauling it out of the woods ourselves and stuff like that.
The week of March 11th would not be
Cool.
good service, but other than that, there's nothing pressing going on in our life.
Yeah, there's no way.
Okay. Great. Well,
All right,
we'll
sweet.
just coordinate between all of us. We've got a couple other guests, and we really appreciate you so much for coming on. So thanks a lot. I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. But thank you so much.
Make sure to
Thanks,
like and
PH.
subscribe.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and then we'll keep in touch when this comes out. Garrett's got to do his thing and work a little magic, and then we'll just send it your way and look forward to spreading this around and doing it again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Bye.